Hi, welcome to One Eye on the Page. I am Scott. I have a lot of books. And I have lots of books that I haven't read. I have books that I have read, and I have books that I'm just not going to read or read again. It's time to do a bit of an unhauling. I have over 125 books that I'm getting rid of. Let's talk about that. Sound like Red and Link. So there are various reasons why I'm getting rid of these books. There are books that I have for different reasons that I'm not going to read again, that I'm not going to read, haven't read. Books that I just don't think are necessary anymore, books that I had for a purpose and no longer have that purpose. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. We the Animals by Justin Torres. I read this book for a class for my MFA in creative writing. It was okay. It reads like the type of book that one would read for an MFA class, and I don't have the patience for it anymore. I do have other books that I read in my MFA program that I do love. The Department of Speculation by Jenny Offel, I believe. Offel. That's a great one. But yeah, this one just doesn't do anything to me. Also read a postcard memoir by Laura Sutton. I believe that was in a creative essay class that I was in. Read it the once. I don't think it was bad, but it's definitely not something that I'm going to pick up ever again. Also have books that my wife had. I have plenty of books that were hers. There are a lot of them, like the Jim Butcher collection that I enjoyed. I'm going to keep even what is it, the Cinder Spheres one, which I don't think I'm going to read, but I'm going to keep it. There are some books of hers that I keep for sentimental reason. I have probably alluded to it before, but my wife Katie passed away in 2021. So there are just some books of hers that I don't feel that there is a reason to keep. There are some books that are. If I thought that, for example, Robin wanted any of these books, I would give them to Robin, or if my other kid wanted them, but I know my other kid. But Tina Fey's Bossy Pants, I think I'd picked up a few times just kind of for quick read type of thing, but I just didn't get into it. And Caitlin Moran's How to Be a Woman, uh, my wife was quite the feminist, and I have read some books on feminism. I've enjoyed some of them, but it's just not a field that I'm going to really deeply delve into. I generally don't read that much nonfiction as it is. So a lot of these are just not going to be something that I enjoy. More books. Katie, Hope's Boy by Andrew Bridge. Again, just not something I feel like I enjoy. Susan Carroll, The Quarter Song. Ouch. Thanks, Wash. Deborah Harkness, A Discovery of Witches. Again, more books that Katie had that I just am never going to read. Two books by Kim Harrison, Black Magic State Sanction, Black Magic Sanction, and Dead Witch Walking. They seem a little horror based, and my recent experience with horror is rather spotty. I obviously will read some authors, Stephen King, Robert McCammon, if they write in the horror field. I'll read them, But my experience, I did a video last year on extreme horror. A couple of the books were really good. The rest were truly awful, and so horror is just not something I feel I read often enough that I'm going to delve into these. Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. I do have to admit, I read this, didn't like it. Is Everyone Hanging Without Me by Mindy Kaling. I don't know if this is a good book or not. I do know that my experience with Mindy Kaling is that she writes cringe stuff. And I don't say cringe in a bad way because The Office was cringe, but a lot of it was good. I say cringe in kind of the way where I kind of have to do it like this. I'm not comfortable with cringe stuff. I'm the type of person when something kind of cringy happens on TV, I kind of get up and watch it around from the corner. Uh, Gabriella Calapis, Fertility Goddesses, Groundhog Bellies, and the Coca Cola Company. That's just too big a title for me. Oops. Men Explain Things to Me by Rebecca Solnit. I actually did read at least a part of this. Again, it's fine, but it's nonfiction, and I would rather read nonfiction that really is interesting to me. And I have my kids to chastise me about feminism. I can just talk to them. I don't need books. You Don't Have to Like Me by Alita Nugent. I did read this one. Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. Girl Boss by Sophia Amoruso. Uh, Nonfiction, seems like it may be a little bit of a biography. Probably not. The Witch's Daughter by Paula Braxton. These are more Katie's books, as is uh, Paradox by Catherine Coulter. The Feasting Season by Nancy Coombs. You'll Pay by Lisa Jackson. The Jane Austen Marriage Manual by Kim Izzo. And Swerve by Vicki Peterson. I just want to point out there are a lot of books that both Katie and I have read that we enjoy. Just I also have a lot of books that she did not like, and she had books I didn't like or wasn't interested in. The Lost by Vicki Peterson. The Taken by Vicki Peterson. The Unapologetic Fat Girl's Guide to Exercise by Honey Blank. I mean, I'm not a fat girl, but I could use help with exercise, but exercising is my issue, or knowing about exercising, it's actually doing it, which I'm going to do. Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is actually one of my books. This is one of the books that I read for my romance video back in, I believe, June. It's okay. Not anything that I would ever read again. I have discovered, because this is set at a college, that I'm not really a college romance kind of guy. Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter by Seth Graham Smith. Did read it. Did enjoy it. I also read, not that I didn't enjoy it, I just didn't think it needs a reread. I also have read Pride and Prejudice and Zombies by the same author. Eh, eh. Uh, Scar Tissue by Anthony Kiedis, another book of mine. I've tried to read it a few times over the years. I like some of Red Hot Chili Peppers music, but I guess all the biography I need from him is in the songs. Don Bajima's Boy in the Air. It's something I got from Henry Rollins 21361. Uh, but it's just not anything that I'm going to ever read again. I've had that over 20 years. I've read it once. Joe Biden, Promise Me, Dad. I'm not really sure how I got this book. I think it was a gift. I'm not sure. Again, nonfiction, memoir. memoir by a political person. Generally, not something I'm interested in. Jonathan Kellerman, Deception. It's an Alex Delaware novel. Pretty much, I feel you read one Alex Delaware novel, you pretty much have read all of them. There are varying degrees, just like with Robert B. Parker's Spencer novels, but I think Parker novels are written better. So even though you kind of get the same story each time, it's more interesting. Also, Jesse Kellerman, his son, I actually, it's one of those things, the nepotism thing, where I was like, oh, I kind of enjoy at the time the Alex Dillon novels. Maybe I'll like the ones by his son. I didn't really. I've also read some by his wife, but I don't have any of those books. I can't really recall anything, but I think I liked them, but I'm not sure. The Thief's Opera, The Riveting True Story of 18th Century's London's Most Notorious and Active Criminals by Lucy Moore. This is a Katie book. It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This is a me book. This is part of my romance thing. I don't like Tessa Bailey books. I have discovered that. I read two of them, including this one, Unfortunately Yours, which was one of my worst books of 2023. As I mentioned before, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. I believe it won a Bram Stoker Award. The writing's good. I just did not care for the story at all. I was hoping for a lot more. The Last Lecture by Randy Posh, basically a dying man's last words. I liked it when I read it, but again, not something I really need to read ever again. Do I have some books that I will never read again that I will still keep? Yeah, I talked last year. I gave 5 stars to Animal Farm and Night, and I won't read those books again because, hey, pain, but I still wouldn't get rid of those books. The Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling, I'll be quite honest, I've tried to read this a few times, just could never get into it. The 57 Bus by Dashka Slater, couldn't even tell you what this is about. It's been on my shelf for I don't know how long, and I just have never been called to. The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This book is actually the reason I read a lot of other romance books because I needed something else to read, as I read this one because I hated the character Joshua Templeman so much. And so I will not be reading Sally Thorne again. Perhaps she's great in other books, but uh, this book and others like it are some of the reasons why I basically, if I read a romance, it's pretty much sapphic because a lot of the men in romance books are truly awful people who Stockholm syndrome women abuse them in varying forms, and it's like I don't get it. On a Sunbeam by Tilly Walden. I picked this one up in Massachusetts when I was visiting. I thought I was going to like it. It was a graphic novel, and I just couldn't get it. I finished it, but it was not awful, but it was a disappointment. The Unofficial Harry Potter Insult Handbook. That was something Katie got for Christmas one year. J.K. Rowling Fantastic Beast, the original screenplay. I don't need a screenplay of that. I also don't need Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I read it. I wouldn't mind seeing it, like on Broadway, but do I need to read it in book form? No. My Life as a Coke Addict. Diet Coke, that is. I honestly bought this just because Diet Coke. Actually, I didn't buy it. I believe it was a gift because it was on my Amazon wish list. It wasn't worth it. Second Avenue Caper by Joe Sprabner. Tried to read it, didn't really get into it. The Abyss of Human Illusion by Gilbert Sorrentino. I'm a guy with a creative writing MFA, but honestly, there is a lot of literature. I'm just like, oh, you're just doing that for the writing exercise. And I feel like this is one of them. The Mueller Report by Mueller. Introduction by Alan Dershowitz. Don't even know how I got that. I have this in here. I don't know if I'm actually going to get rid of this one. Kristen Hanna, Nightingale. I am reading The Great Alone right now from my family's book club. If it turns out that that one is good, I may keep this one on here. So this is an if. Red Rain by R.L. Stine. I'll be quite honest. I have nothing to base it on. I've just dropped the book. I've never felt the desire to read an R.L. Stine book, and I could be completely missing out, but I don't feel the urge. Leonard Nimoy, I Am Spock. I know he also has an autobiography called I Am Not Spock. I did read this, but it's one of those ones. Oh, one read was enough. It was fine. The Book of Dead Philosophers by Simon Critchley. Read it. Don't need to read again. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, whatever. Read that for MFA. Hated it. Awful book. Sid Field screenplay, The Foundations of Screenwriting. I read it. Decent book, but probably a bit outdated, and I just don't think I'm a screenplay kind of guy. In the Course of My Walks by August Derleth. I have no idea I have this book. I don't think it's a Katie book. Maybe it is. Oh, but it's got a. Oh yeah, that's a Katie book because that book club, that bookmark is from her home state. Yeah, that doesn't seem like something Katie would like though. Which may be why the bookmark is near the front of the book. The Man Who Ate Everything by Jeffrey Steingarten. I probably have seen him on Food Network shows at least years ago. I think he's passed away since. I read it. It was fine, but uh, Five Star Trails, The Ozarks by Jim Warnock. It's trails here in Arkansas, but honestly, I can find that stuff online. I did read it long ago. The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor Laval. Another one, I'm not really quite sure how I got that book. The Law of Superheroes by James Daly and Ryan Davidson. It's one of those ones where you get a book, you're like, ooh, this will be interesting. Then you start reading it, and it's like, oh yeah, I don't really like law that much. And sure, you throw superheroes on it, but it's still about law in my interest level is much more rudimentary than what they get into. Carl Hysen, Razor Girl. Never read it, but I have read some Carl Hysen before. Just never got into it. 50 Words for Rain by Ash Lemmy. I read this one last year. Didn't really enjoy it. It wasn't that great. Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zimmerman. Honestly, disappointed in this. One of those books that was like heavily pushed on BookTube and all, and then I read it and it's like, oh, that's not a good book. It's not. The Plot by Jean Humph Corlitz. I tried to read this a few times, and Stephen King liked it, but I couldn't get into it. The Dog Stars by Peter Heller. Read this last year. It was on my worst of 2023. The Girl on the Train by Paul Hawkins. Actually, very decent book, but I don't think it's a book that will hold up to subsequent readings. Not that it's not a good book, but when you know what happens, there are books that you can read like, I know what happens, but I still love the book. And then there are books that you read, it's like, okay, but I know what happens, and this doesn't hold my interest anymore. The Death of Expertise by Tom Nichols. Honestly, good book, but it's a nonfiction book you don't need to read again. And also, he blocked me on Twitter, so you already got my money. I said something snarky about Jake Tapper. Bunny by Mona Awad. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get this book. I mean, I got it, but I didn't get it, and it just wasn't worth it. Prodigal Blues by Gary A. Brombeck. I think this was a gift that I got a long time for Christmas from an aunt, or maybe it's not. I don't know where I got this book, but I just don't enjoy it. Harry Potter's Bookshelf, The Great Books Behind the Hogwarts Adventures by John Granger. Actually took a Harry Potter college course, which was interesting, but my interest in Harry Potter has dimmed down, and I definitely don't need the secondary books in it. Matt Haig, The Midnight Library, not a good book. I don't trust you, BookTube. It's not a good book. It's garbage. uh, Glitterland by Alexis Hall. I read this after reading Something Fabulous, which was an awful book, because my daughter said this was good. It was okay. It it wasn't bad. It was decent, but I'm not ever going to read it again. I don't like the main character enough to read it again. Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zahner. There's nothing wrong with it. I just wasn't able to connect with it when I read it. The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin, who also wrote Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Haven't read this one, but I actually have 2 copies of this book. I think Katie had one also. So I'm getting rid of 1 copy, and I will maybe read the other one, and then we'll see whether or not I'll keep that copy. True Love, Stories Told to and by Robert Fulghum. This might be my book. I can't see Katie getting that book, but I can't get me getting that book either. I think sometimes books just multiply. Sims Book 40 by F. Paul Wilson. Oh, it's a cemetery dance book. I must have got it part of basically a book grab. I Am the Clay by Sham Podak. Mispronounce that. I don't think that I'm interested. Those who have watched before may know that I'm religiously agnostic, but I do like to explore religion, learn about it, kind of take the best parts of it and use them. But at one time, I was really interested in Buddhism, so I have several books. Ethics for the New Millennium by Dalai Lama. Ten Zen Questions by Susan Blackmore. Buddhism for Beginners. The Wisdom of Forgiveness by Dalai Lama. Live in a Better Way, Dalai Lama. The Art of Happiness, Dalai Lama. And If You Meet Him on the Road, Kill Him, The Pilgrimage of Psychotherapy Patients, Sheldon B. Kopp, which I don't know is exactly about Buddhism, but it mentions Buddha. I will say I have read some of these. I have read religious books. My spiritual hero is Guru Amar Das from Sikhism. I got to be honest, I haven't read uh, I'm going to mispronounce the name of the book, but the big Sikhism book. I haven't read it. I've tried to read it. I think it's a little too poetical for me. But otherwise, I'm just, I guess, a spiritual jack of all trades. Just got my fingers in a little bit of everything, but expert in none. Now I got some books for some reason or other. I have multiples of William Goldman's The Princess Bride, Siddhartha by Herman Hesse. Hopefully we're long enough in the video that Robin's no longer watching it, if she ever was. But One More Thing, Stories and Other Stories by B.J. Novak. Robin got this for me for Christmas, not last year, but the year before, and it's like, I already have a copy. And Mankind, Have a Nice Day by Mick Foley, which I have said is the best wrestling autobiography out there. So much so that I have a hardback copy, so I'm going to get rid of that one. Wildwood Road by Christopher Golden. I have 2 copies of that. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I have multiple copies of that. I only have 1 copy of that. One other copy. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. I have an entire collection of paperbacks of the Harry Potter series, plus the first four books. I have those hardback illustrated versions. I'll be quite honest, I don't think I'm going to get any more books. I also have her Robert Galbraith. I like the first three books, but I think regardless of what you might think of her as a person, I do think that her writing has stagnated. Personally, other people may not think so, but uh, you, you will notice that books that aren't Harry Potter related by her don't tend to sell as well. We have a special category here, book club books. These are books that were picked by my family for our family book club. I believe that we have had 18 total books, two of which were ones I picked. So 16 books that I didn't pick. So, Suburban Dicks by Fabian Nicieza. It's a thriller that's not very thrilling and a little bit racist. Into the Woods by Tanner French, another thriller. Poor detective work. That guy sucked. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Taylor Jenkins Reid. Not a bad book, but it's nothing I'm ever going to read again. I really dislike the character of Evelyn Hugo, and I just don't feel any reason to read that book again. The Orphan Keeper by Cameron Wright, one of my worst books of 2023. It's awful. The Glass Ocean by Beatrice Williams, Lauren Willig, and Karen White. It's fine, but again, not a book I'm going to read again. The Breath of God by Jeffrey Small. Brown people die to teach white guy a lesson. An American Marriage by Tiare Jones. This is why you need to have read the book before you select the book for book club. Somebody didn't read the book. This is the least liked book overall. It's not my worst book of the book club, but pretty much everybody disliked this book. Better the Blood by Michael Bennett, which was the most recent book. It's another thriller. You're going to notice a trend. Thrillers. My family loves thrillers. Oh, look, a thriller. Adrian McKinty, The Island. Uh, Boring. Oh, look, another thriller. The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I know lots of people love this book. I think it's a poor book. I think that if you know anybody who's ever worked in the field of psychology, that this therapist is awful. So out of 16 books that other people selected for the family book club, I'm getting rid of 10 of them. Bon Appetit by Barbara Fairchild. I cook a lot, but I just don't think I cook at this level. And also, quite honestly, at this point in time, it's just easier to find stuff online than Fresh Start Bariatric Cookbook. And obviously, you can tell I have not had bariatric surgery, so I don't need this. I do have a heart healthy book that I am keeping. Taste of Home Cookbook. I've had this a while. I've never used it. Weight loss surgery does not treat food addiction. Rachel Ray 2468 Great Meals for Couples or Crowds. Frommer's Europe. It's a little bit old. It's out of date. So if I were to go to Europe again, I'd probably need a more recent book. Bass guitar. It's there. I do not play it. I want to, but I think if I do, I need to go to the lessons route where there's somebody able to look over me and get me going. I don't think this will do it. The Pioneer Woman book, my wife loved Pioneer Woman. I just don't think these recipes are for me. Rachel Ray 365 No Repeats. Again, there are so many recipes online. Soup. Is this Katie's book? My book, I don't like soup. I like 3 soups. The Brendan Novak Face Off, I gotta assume that's a Katie book. No Turning Back, The History of Feminism and the Future of Women by Estelle B. Friedman. That's a Katie book. My little feminist. The Silver Rose by Susan Carroll. The Huntress by Susan Carroll. Twilight of the Queen by Susan Carroll. Janet Mock, Redefining Realness. Those are all Katie books. The Iceman by Johann Reinhardt. This actually, it doesn't look uninteresting, but I'm very aware of who I am. I'm just never going to read it. Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. I don't think I'm ever going to read this. Serenity, Leaves on the Wind. I believe that's a Katie book, but I've also read it. I'm not, no reason to read it again. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Long Way Home. She-Hulk, Disorderly Conduct. I'm not much of a graphic novel reader. I maybe read 2 or 3 a year. Rumi, like this. This is the Katie book. I have 3 Rumi books. I am keeping 1. And this one is another one. The Soul of Rumi. Uh, I Can Barely Take Care of Myself by Jen Kirkman. It's nonfiction humor, but I don't see myself reading it. A Lying Among Men by Gregory Maguire. I read, I guess, Wicked, the first one. Loved the musical. Did not like the book. I have no interest in this. Uh, Jodi Picoult. I may keep this simply for the fact that I believe that this is a book my mom lent me, and by lent me, basically forced me to take. And she never asked for it back. And then she passed away like 5.5 years ago. Or maybe it's this. I don't think there's Arcady books. I don't think. I know. I'm pretty sure the hardback is one from my mom. I don't know about this. Uh, Gregory Maguire, another book. I have no interest in his writing. Jeanette Walls, The Silver Star. That is a Katie book. Again, no interest. The Astronaut Wife Club. I know Katie liked that, but I just don't see myself reading it. And I have so many books on my shelves. I have plenty that I bought that I haven't read yet. And it's it basically came down to like I'm getting close to maximum shelf capacity. I need to do something about it, so I decided to go through the books. And the last one is Whoology. I believe this is a Katie one. Katie actually introduced me to Doctor Who. I'm not going to show you this, but this is a note I wrote to Katie. I, I wrote several notes on index cards and put them in books that Katie was going to read. Probably did, I will say 25 to 30, probably. She never read any of them because Katie, to a much greater extent than me, was one of those people who's like, I love books. I'm going to buy books. Oh, maybe I should read the books, but I'm going to buy more books first. So there are several books here that I am keeping that I know that there are index cards in here. And I didn't write down the books I put them in. I picked books. I was going, she will read these at some point. So I don't know where all of them are. I know where some of them are. So at some point, I will go through these books and see these notes that I wrote Katie. I don't even know if I want to read this. I wrote this on the 8th of September, 2017. Yeah, it's me being a bit of a butthead, but in a loving way. Uh, so that is it. These I'm getting rid of all these books, except with the possible exception of two. The Kristen Hanna book. I have to finish The Great Alone before I decide whether or not to get rid of the other Kristen Hanna book. And what was the other one? There was another one, but I forgot what it was. Oh, the Joni Picoult book, because for a variety of reasons that I won't get into here, um, that's one of the only things that I have from my mom. Uh, Besides, like gifts she's given me over the years and stuff, but I didn't get anything after she passed. So I'm probably going to keep that one, and I might keep the Kristen Hanna one. And as far as I have so many other Katie books here that Katie is always surrounding me. And I mean, she's right up here on the wall. You probably have seen her in the past if you watch past videos. So I don't talk about her much because then I start, which I'm making fun of, so I don't do. So that is what I'm getting rid of. I made it sad. Please like and subscribe, leave a comment, and I will talk to you next time. Oh, this is February 3rd. Tomorrow is Katie's birthday. Happy birthday, my love.